In recent years, the gaming industry has been going remake and remaster crazy, with the likes of, say, Dead Space, Silent Hill 2, a few Resident Evil games, GTA 5 multiple times, amongst many other titles. Now, some of these were great remakes or great remasters, but remaking or remastering games isn't always a good thing, and in a lot of cases, players left wondering why studios are remaking certain games when instead they should be focusing on making something completely brand new. Like, if you take the recent remaster of Horizon Zero Dawn as an example, this game was initially released back in 2017 and it looked great and ran great on both PS4, PS5 and PC, even now. So why on earth did they think it needed a remaster? Like, I saw an article not long ago said that the original game is having a higher player count than the remaster, which doesn't surprise me one bit. This could be a rebel against the likes of Sony demanding remasters of games that literally only came out on the previous generation's consoles. Now, personally, I think if a game studio is remastering or effectively remaking a game, it should be skipping at least a generation of consoles or at least 10 years when it comes to PC games. Though the flip side of that, there are a number of instances where players desperately want certain games to be remade and enhanced to bring them crashing into the modern day with a bang. Now, I've been having some discussions with a bunch of gamers about this over the last few months, so in this video I'll be going over 10 games that we all desperately wanted a remake of, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get stuck in. Just for a note, when we're talking about remakes and remasters, I'm not talking about the kind of remasters that the Grand Theft Auto trilogy of Grand Theft Auto 3, Vice City and San Andreas got, which went down like a lead balloon. I'm more talking about the likes of the Resident Evil remakes, which were, well, effectively started again with significant upgrades on their original version. By the way, if you get to the end of this video and there are some games that I haven't mentioned that you would love to see remade, please do leave a comment below letting us all know which game that is, or games you'd love to see a true remaster of. These games are in no particular order, but at number 1 I've put Grand Theft Auto 4, and a lot of that is down to the fact that I think it has one of the best stories in the franchise. It felt like a much more down-to-earth kind of story that felt a little closer to a crime drama with a bunch of awesome action thrown into the middle of it from time to time. I also think Nico Bellic was one of the best protagonists that Grand Theft Auto games has had to date, so getting a chance to replay his story with enhanced graphics and performance would be a barrel of fun. Like, I don't want to see a poor remaster like the ones Grand Theft Auto 3, Vice City and San Andreas had, but more one akin to The Last of Us remasters perhaps, because people often forget that The Last of Us Part 1, the original version, and GTA 4 actually came out on the same generation of consoles, albeit a couple of years apart. I had an absolute blast playing GTA 4 through multiple times and spending countless hours online back in the day, and I would really love a chance to get to do that again before GTA 6 comes out, though that is quite unlikely at this point. But a remaster would be awesome nonetheless. At number 2, I've technically gone for a trilogy of games, and those are the Resistance games. So I'd love to see a remaster of Resistance Fall of Man, Resistance 2 and Resistance 3. Now, I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like these 3 games are a little bit underappreciated from the PlayStation 3 era. They were all truly enjoyable games in their own right, and they included some truly epic boss battles, and on top of that, I remember thoroughly enjoying the multiplayer side of things of it as well. I think the only thing that was holding the games back a little bit from being more widely played and appreciated is they came out in an era when Call of Duty had sort of redefined the FPS multiplayer games with the original Modern Warfare. I actually think Resistance Fall of Man was the first-person shooter game I got for my PlayStation 3 at the time, and I was immediately hooked. Now, a remaster of these would be totally awesome, but I actually love it if the series got a reboot or a new game in the series because I would play the shit out of that. At number 3, we're heading towards Middle-earth, and for this one, I've gone for a remaster of the Lord of the Rings Return of the King game. I played this game to death at the time of its release, and I actually still own a copy of it to this day on my PlayStation 2. Although it is currently stuck in my loft gathering dust, but still. At the time of its release, the graphics for this game were dubbed as excellent, along with the sound, the gameplay, and overall general performance, because it really was a successful game and great fun. It truly was a hardcore gamer's dream with the appeal to the mass market. And of course, the success of the films at the time, it gained great attention, so But now, 21 years later, it looks a little bit dated, which is no surprise at all. But I, along with my friends, played a tremendous amount of co-op on this game, and I would certainly be over the moon if they decided to remaster it. Though, as a side note to this, could you imagine if we got a truly open world game set in Middle Earth that was on the scale of, say, The Witcher 3? That would be my absolute dream, though I do think it is quite unlikely that we'll ever get it. So, I'd stick with a remaster for the Lord of the Rings Return of the King game right now. Number 4 on this list actually has a high possibility of happening, though I think it will be more of a port than a total remaster. But that game is Metal Gear Solid 4 Guns of the Patriots. We already have the Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 1, which means there is a very good chance we're going to see Metal Gear Solid 4 in a Volume 2, assuming that's going to be a thing in the near future. I think a port of Guns of the Patriots to free it from its PlayStation 3 prison is a little bit more difficult than the porting of the earlier games, hence why it is yet to be done. And as for me including it in this list, I absolutely loved it when it came out. I think I completed it about 5 times back to back, like when I first got it. I loved the gameplay, sneaking mechanics, the boss battles, and the cutscenes, though I must admit, some of the cutscenes were insanely long. I think Metal Gear Solid 4 actually holds the Guinness World Record for the longest ever cutscene in a game, standing at a whopping 71 minutes, which is just nuts. I mean, it was a great finale to the series, but my only real gripe with it would be I wanted the story to be longer, like the actual gameplay side of things, I mean. Disregarding the hours upon hours of cutscenes it contained. So I think without the cutscenes you could probably complete the game in 5 hours if you absolutely blasted through it. But I would have had like an extra 5 to 10 hours on top of that ideally. But either way, a remaster or at the very least a port to modern day consoles is very high on my wish list. At number 5 is Deus Ex, the first one, because it is a truly iconic game with ambitious plot, immersive gameplay, world building, and role playing. The only downside really of this game at the time was even when it was released, like the graphics weren't overly amazing. I mean, obviously this was 20 odd years ago, but even then they weren't great. Now, 24 years later, I think it would seriously benefit from a Resident Evil style remake from the ground up. But of course, that's going to be very difficult for a game this highly regarded. Like, the original Deus Ex is still regarded as one of the greatest games of all time, and it spawned like a sequel and a bunch of prequels from it, with the latest one being Deus Ex Mankind Divided, and there's a entirely different conversation around that as well. Now, I didn't actually play the original game until like 2005, 2006, which was like 5 or 6 years after it originally came out. But it is still ingrained in my head as a seriously good and memorable game, and one that felt like it was ahead of its time in 2005, let alone the years before when it originally came out. So I would absolutely love a remake from the ground up, so I could replay it through without, well, the terrible graphics, let's be honest. Again, it is very risky and it has to be done right. And as a side note, but sticking with Deus Ex, but not the original game, I feel like Deus Ex Mankind Divided needs a sequel because the ending was, well, kind of lacking. I feel like it got a similar sort of treatment as Metal Gear Solid The Phantom Pain when it was released, but it wasn't fully finished, or it was ended with the idea that more games would come out in the years following it, but so far at least, that just hasn't happened, and I felt like I needed to mention it nonetheless. Coming in at number 6 is Infamous. Mainly the original one that was released back in, 2009? Back in these days, I was notorious for spending so much of my gaming time playing like Call of Duty Online, because Modern Warfare, World at War and Modern Warfare 2 were around in those days, and they were freaking awesome. I also played a bit of GTA 4 and FIFA. I just kind of disregarded a lot of other games for a while, but Infamous, and to another extent the Resistance games, brought me right back into trying out these other games again. A friend of mine lent me Infamous like a couple months after it came out, and I was all, hooked almost straight away. I freaking loved exploring Empire City using the awesome electrical powers that Cole had. It really was a blast and something totally different to, Call of Duty. I suppose to another extent I would also like a HD upscale or a remaster of the second game as well, because I had just as much fun in that one as I did in the first one. I mean, in fact, tell you what, I enjoyed all of the Infamous games. I don't think Second Son needs remastered because it was released on the PlayStation 4. but a remaster or at least a HD upgrade for the first two games in the series would be great, and I would play the shit out of those again. Coming in at number 7, I've got Need for Speed Underground 1 and 2. I couldn't do a list like this and not include a racing game of some description, and the reason I've gone for Need for Speed Underground, well, the Underground games, is because they could in theory be done together and shipped as part of the same package. Did also consider the original Need for Speed Most Wanted game and perhaps Burnout 3 Takedown for another racing game, but for me, the Underground games were my favourite back in the day, and I probably completed both of them at least like 10 to 15 times over. Now, I know there is apparently a mod for Underground 2 which boosts the game's graphics and performance, but I'd love an official remaster of both the games because I think, as I said, with the exception of maybe the original Most Wanted, these were the best Need for Speed games, well, period. And I would love to play through them again with the enhanced graphics and performance of the latest games. At number 8, I've gone for Mercenaries Playground of Destruction, and I feel this game sort of flies under the radar a little bit. Not many people I know played it as much as I do anyway. So I thought Playground of Destruction was an absolute blast. I used to just go around destroying literally anything, which was super easy by the way, which kind of felt like it was a game ahead of its time back then. I know games since have created some great destructible like game worlds, like Battlefield Bad Company when that first came out, and a bunch of others since then. But I thought Mercenaries was pretty unique back in the day and a whole load of fun. I'd absolutely love a remaster of it with vastly improved destruction physics, graphics, and just overall general performance. Like, some of the Just Cause games sort of feel like partial successes, but Mercenaries was just the pinnacle and ahead of its time. I know you can play it these days, but it just feels really dated because, it's nearly 20 years old now, but I would bloody love a remaster of it. At number 9, I've gone for Fallout New Vegas because, to put it simply, this is my favourite Fallout game. I've been playing through Fallout 4 again recently with its recent next generation update, and I'm really enjoying it, but if we were to get New Vegas to the level of Fallout 4 with the same treatment, I would be absolutely over the moon. I wouldn't change anything beyond the graphics and performance and whatnot because the story and the gunplay and everything else still should hold up just fine. Did contemplate including Fallout 3 in this list as well, but I decided, and along with chats with some other gamers, that New Vegas would be a better choice and the perfect candidate for a Fallout remastered game. It is widely regarded as the best in the series, and as long as Bethesda aren't the ones to do the remaster, I would be all over it. Because basically, Bethesda haven't exactly been on top of their game in recent years. So I'd much prefer it if Obsidian were the ones to create the remaster, but I think they're pretty busy at the moment. And if you were to get a remaster of a Fallout game, what would you guys prefer? Would you prefer New Vegas? Would you prefer Fallout 3? Or even a total redesign of 1 or 2 made into an FPS game like the more recent ones? Let me know in the comments below. And last, but by definitely no means least, at number 10, we have Simpsons Hit and Run. Being honest, I probably want a full remaster or remake of this game more than any other game on this list. I absolutely loved this game as a kid, and I must have completed it no less than like 20 times back then. Hit and Run is probably the best Simpson game to ever come out, and I will challenge anyone who says otherwise. It was also reminiscent of Grand Theft Auto with like a Simpsons lick of paint over it, and obviously not as brutal as GTA can be. But if this game were to ever get a remake, I would certainly want them to merge all of the game's explorable areas into one open world. Because if you remember, there were different areas of Springfield you could explore as different characters on different levels. But beyond that, I wouldn't significantly change much else. Apart from the graphics and performance, of course. One thing that is definitely worth pointing out here is there is a YouTuber who goes by the name of Rubes, and I really hope I pronounced that correctly, who has actually done a video series around an unofficial remake of Simpsons Hit and Run. And if you haven't seen that yet, I would definitely recommend you check it out. I'll leave a link to his channel in the description below. Now, sadly it would never get released, but I thoroughly enjoyed watching the series. He has also gone down the route of making the entire game open world and merging all of the areas together with updated graphics and performance. I mean, man, the nostalgia hit hard watching those videos, and I actually still have a PlayStation 2, so I might go ahead and replay the game over the holiday period. And there you have it, folks. There are 10 games that me and a few gamers discussed that think we definitely really need a proper remaster for. I mean, well, it actually was more than 10 in the end, wasn't it? Ah, well. Anyway, as I said at the beginning of the video, if you have any other games you think we desperately need a remake or remaster for, please leave a comment below and let us know what that game or what those games are. I'm really just waiting for everyone to type in Bloodborne and run away. Anyhow, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you are still here, it would be totally awesome if you could support my channel by hitting those like and subscribe buttons. You can now become a channel member as well, and as always, thank you for watching this video, and I hope to catch you in the next one.